Hold on. There we go. All right. Everybody hear me? We're good? I hope so. All right, cool. Anyways, yeah, thanks, Clint. Clint's awesome at anything that has to do with technology and technical SEO. Schema is just, one of the greatest things. Some of the stuff that we've been playing with on our side for the past few months is how far can we test this? How far can we go before Google says, So some of the stuff you're going to see today has just really been, kind of hit and miss. And then we're through this thing to where about 6-8 weeks ago, I would say, we kind of like light bulb came on, we figured it out. We're seeing results. We're seeing traffic increases. We're seeing some more featured snippets. But anyways, what you're going to see today is super keyword stuff. I mean, it's not real keyword stuff as far as just listing a whole bunch of keywords, but it's a way to show Google a different thing. So, or the search engines, not just Google anymore, because Bing, Yahoo, Yandex, they all use schema now. So anyways, let me share my screen here and turn my cam off. Make sure I can do this. Share. Okay. Let's see. Turn the cam off. Okay. Everybody still hear me? All right. So just a little bit about me real quick. Let me see here. I got to use my little tool. There we go. My name's Terry Samuels. For those of you who don't know me, I was in the Navy for 7.5 years. I was a nuclear welder in the Navy. I was an IT director for Phelps Dodge, which is a large copper mining company. My wife and I owned a large real estate flipping business back in the day. Currently, I own Salterra, and I'm partnered with Justin Blake. We actually created Infinity Ranking. If you want to know a little bit more about Infinity Ranking, just reach out to either one of us. We're happy to tell you. Salterra is a family-owned business. It's me and my wife, Skylar, and we started in 2010 with web design and software development. I was forced into SEO in 2013. I specialized in churches, charities, and foundations to start, and a couple of my foundations were getting really hammered as far as being overcharged and nothing being done. And then actually my first real paying client was under a Google penalty when they hired me. So I got to actually learn SEO on how to get people out of a penalty. So that was pretty cool. Salterra has VAs in Serbia, Costa Rica, India, and Argentina. Why Advanced Schema? So from schema.org, your web pages have an underlying meaning that people understand when they read the web pages. But search engines have a limited understanding of what is being discussed on those pages. By adding additional tags to the HTML of your web pages, hey, search engines, this information describes this specific movie or place or person or service or video, whatever's on that page. You can help the search engines and other applications better understand your content and display it in a useful, relevant way. Microdata is a set of tags introduced with HTML5, and it allows you to do this. One of the very first things that I tell people is if it's not in the head, it's not going to work. So again, when WordPress came out, all the open source software, Joomla, Drupal, they all had the same initial problem: how is Google going to vertically crawl from top to bottom? And still today, a lot of the themes, and I'm going to say the majority of themes out there, including Divi, Simon Cornelius, does not get a full crawl. So if you don't have the schema in the head, then your schema is probably not being crawled. So we try to make sure that it's in the head. We try to make sure we treat schema as basically a separate web page. So you're going to see as we go through this thing and some of the stuff we do with it, and we're also actually testing this, is we are going to build a website out with just schema, no text on the page, and see what happens. I was hoping to do that before the conference, but it's never mind. I didn't have time. So anyways, it gives search engines more choices of what to show in the SERP results. So, one of the things that we have to do is we have to, as SEOs or as marketers, say, hey, Google, hey, Yahoo, hey, Bing, this is all we do on this page. You go out and pick and choose what you want to show people to better the results and the click-through rate to my website. And it's also another way of internal linking and siloing, which I'll show you. And you can also stack schema on a page level, which I'll also go through. Today, we're going to talk about a few different topics of schema. So we're going to talk about the right at type. Choosing the right at type from the ground level up is very, very important. So we're going to go through that. We're going to go through the person schema, the additional types, the same as the potential actions, all the stuff that you see there on the slide we're going to touch base on today. Schema steps. Okay, this is the first thing we do inside of our agency. The first thing we do when we get a new website or we're building out a new website is we always want to see what the structure of the current website is. So the structure of a website is super important for a number of different reasons. Siloing is one, relevant content is another, duplicate content is another, and duplicate content not in the bad way, but duplicate content as far as we're seeing blog posts that might be a paragraph different than another blog post. And it's just like, now that's a kind of a opportunity waiting for trouble, so to speak, with when you kind of talk about cannibalization. So we look at definitely the structure of the website. We look at the brand. This is probably the most time consuming thing that we do is we want to go out and look at the brand. We want to search the brand. We want to go out and say, hey, what is Google already showing everybody about this brand, about this company? We also want to go out and say, okay, if this brand is a plumber, what sites do we want to go out and research that might give us authority for that niche or for that space? We also go out and we gather up any stack links that have been built, any IFTT links, social links, all that type of stuff. If they have any accreditations or education, we also list all that. We go out and find all the reviews. So we find all the Yelp reviews. We find all the Google reviews. We try to find all the reviews that are out there on the internet. GMB, we'll go into the GMB, we'll go into the maps or the page source, and we'll find the two things that we need out of there. And I'll show you all this. And then we start with a site-wide schema, and we want to get that loaded as soon as possible, because then now you at least have something that's more advanced than the normal stuff. And it gives you more time then to prioritize on how you're going to build your schema. And then you just start building. One thing about schema is this process is not automated at all. This is a very time-consuming process. The plumber that we just took on a few weeks ago, it probably took us 3 solid days just to do schema. And that was after we did the research. So one of the reasons that I'm going to kind of alleviate that problem for you guys is we are going to give you guys all of our template library. So there's some schemas in there that aren't done yet. Like I'm still working on a large insurance company right now. I'm working on a large e-com company. And then as we finish those libraries, we'll continue to upload those in the file that you guys will have access to. So, okay, so without further ado, let's go into this thing. So we are going to actually talk about our agency website. I didn't really want to bring up any client stuff, even though you are going to see a little bit today. But if you guys want to come and attack me, go for it. I'm ready. Okay, so there's a few things to look at when it comes to schema. This is the entire schema on our website. So we always start with the site-wide. The site-wide schema gives us an opportunity to tell Google or Yahoo or any of them, this is what my website is about. This is what the stuff I do with this website. This is the services we have. This is, all on a broad level. We're not getting local at all on the site-wide. Site-wide is all on a very broad level. So one of the first things that we do is we want to make sure that we are just going through and talking about certain things of schema. One of the most important things that we do is we want to find what I call the K code. Somebody called, there's different names for it. Clint mentioned it, but the easiest way to get the K code, and I'll show you guys here, is when you go to your map and you right click and view source. Very simple. So now you just do a control find /G/. There's your K code. Every map has one. It's it's something that's super powerful, and it's simple, easy to find. So one of the things that we do is we always go out and get the K code. We also will go out and get the CID. One of the things that we started using as far as tools, as plugins, is we started using what's called, hold on here, I got to find it. Is it this one? Yep, there it is. We started using a tool called Gather Up. Gather Up will give you the mapped URL. It'll also give you a review URL. So this is actually your CID right here. So when you go out and people say, hey, put your CID in your schema, this is where you get it for. This is also cool for you guys that want to send a link out to get reviews. This does it also for you. Sends them right to the review page. So a little off topic. So when you go in and you start gathering all this information, hold on here. Yeah, start gathering all the information. Then you just start putting it in place. So one of the things that we do, and one of the things we like to show people is how we do these things is we just go line item by line item. And I'm to tell you, just to give you guys a hint, this is one website schema. Thousands and thousands of words and text and the whole 9 yards. So as you get these libraries, you just start using and getting used to. I use Notepad++. And so I can easily go out and do search and replace. I can, without changing the initial structure, I can go out and search and replace, the new K code, and I can go out and search and replace the new CID, all the different things that I want to do. Okay, so the templates are super awesome just because of the fact that you don't get a lot of, and I'm using JSON-LD obviously, so I don't get a lot of errors when I do this stuff, at least from the template version. Let's see here. So we got different things that you do, normal stuff that all schema has, payments accepted, price range, additional properties. This is typically a Wikipedia thing for us in our industry. I think the only other one that might be, not very much authoritative. So we just choose Wikipedia for ours. Little opening hours. Here's the graduating put it description. So again, it's just another way I can stuff. When we have tested this, you can stuff this with 1,000 freaking words. It doesn't matter. So I would not recommend putting the same text that's on the web page in the schema. So you want to make sure you can kind of mix it up. Postal address, contact point, area served. This is at a broad level. So we serve the US, and we also are local to Arizona. Image type, we just simple image schema, which I'll go into a more advanced image schema. The geo coordinates, our office can be found there. Then we get into the founder. I like using the founder schema because it gives ownership site-wide of who owns this website. So we go into the person, me, Elizabeth, both of us. And then we have our graphics, when we have our, anything that's potential action on our sites, we always send them to a quote page. Make sure we can do that. Additional type. Okay, so here's where we get into the additional types of what we do as a company or what they do as a company, whoever you're working schema on. So additional type, we do internet marketing, we do web design, we do SEO, we do marketing, we do social media, software, hosting, and reputation management. So all of these have a Wikipedia page, which means you also have a product ontology page. Sorry, I'm having problems getting words out today. So you want to make sure you use both of those because they're both additional types. Now, if you had other things, let's say, for instance, you're working on a doctor and the doctor has a listing somewhere at WebMD or something. Those could also be what we call power authority pages, or power authority links. So your additional type, again, you can do whatever you want. Main page of entity, again, the K code, and then the same as. So this is the place that we probably test the most is what can I get away with same as. So site-wide, this is everything that we have found when I first did my Google search. Let me show you this real quick. So when you do your Google search, hold on, I got it. There it is. So when you go out and search for your brand, and then 29,900 results, I'll typically go in and I'll go 5, 6, 7 pages in and get anything that's not our actual website. Okay, so anything that, and these are all index stuff. I mean, I can obviously put a spreadsheet of the 300 citations I built and all the other stuff we have, but I want stuff that's already indexed. So we'll go in here. Etsy's not me. I don't sell nothing. It's a company overseas somewhere. Anyways, I do have a second website. I didn't choose to use that. But I did, clutch.co, Crunchbase, LinkedIn, Salterra.ro. That's not mine. Upcity, the conversion.com or conversation.com. So I use all these things that if they're on the first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages, I'm going to put them in my schema. So Voyage Phoenix is an interview I did. Yelp, one asshole gave me a bad review because I wouldn't do a proposal on a Sunday. Page Optimizer Pro, hey, I got a link from Kyle. Then Facebook, Twitter, tech side. Anyways, just to go through and you're finding your brand links, that's what these are. So anytime that I want to find out brand links, I just go searching. So I've also got Google Stacks that we made for a brand. I've got some of my IFTT stuff in here, my branded ring. So there's all kinds of stuff that we put up in here, and this did fine. Google, I'll show you what happened when we loaded this about 36 days ago now, 33 days ago. It was the 1st of March we loaded this. You get into knows about. Knows about's another thing. Clint touched base on it. If you're a plumber, if you're a dentist, if you're whatever, list all the stuff you know about. List all the stuff you can do. If you repair sinks, if you unclog toilets, if you replace hot water heaters, if you install tankless hot water heaters, all that stuff put in here is knows about. And then you get into what I think is one of the coolest things that we started doing. It's called it has an offer catalog. Offer catalog is based, remember, this is site-wide. So offer catalog basically gives us an opportunity to take our main services and give us a blurb for it. So obviously our main services is we do everything. We're a complete web house. So we just tag that to the homepage, put a little blurb here about it. Another service is we do web design and development. So we sent that to the web development page and a little blurb about it. Same thing with SEO, a little blurb about it, internet marketing software. So this is site-wide. So when we go out and we say, okay, Google, here we go. This is our site-wide schema. It's not really particular. I haven't really mentioned local areas yet. I haven't mentioned anything around, obviously aggregate rating. I haven't mentioned anything about reviews. There's no video on here. The only image is basically a logo type image. So when you load this up site-wide, it really has some powerful effects. So the cool thing about it is now it gives me time to go out and say, okay, what is the next step that I'm going to build? Okay, so we are Arizona. That's our main location. That's our main market. That's where we're going to reside, hopefully for a while. So we go out and we built the Arizona schema. So Arizona schema, it starts off with web design, and then it gets into, all the different stuff about web design, a couple different images. The get a quote is, we did the get a quote to be, the Google Maps CID this time because we've already got the potential action on the site-wide schema to go to the quote page. So here we also list out our cities. So here's where we can do internal siloing with schema. So in Arizona, these are the cities that we are focusing on in Arizona. So, Phoenix, obviously, Phoenix is actually interesting because Wikipedia has two things for Phoenix. It has the actual city, and then it has the metropolitan area. So we use both. Here's where you can kind of do some keyword stuffing. I just kept it simple, but I could keyword stuff the crap out of this right now. And I have a URL to our Phoenix web design page. So again, in the Arizona schema, this schema only goes on Arizona properties. Then it already has an internal silo system made up. So, and all cities are the same. So you get into Scottsdale, Tempe, Chandler, blah, blah, blah. And they all have an internal web page. So when we get in, we do the same thing again for SEO. So Arizona has the same types of schema for all of our services. So we have SEO, we have internet marketing, and that's it. So those are the three main ones we did for the Arizona page. And then we get into just Arizona web design. So we have an Arizona location page that isn't really designed for any specific service. It's more of a location page. So we do have pages that are specific service. So for the web design services for the Arizona site, we come in here and the same thing. We list all the cities out that we service in there. On the SEO page for Arizona, same thing. And on the internet marketing, same thing. Area served, that's just a template. Now on the web design, we obviously have pages that aren't area specific. So as far as part of the silo, we want to have a web design service on the web design page or category pages. Same thing with SEO, same thing with internet marketing and software development. Excuse me. Contact page. No, I don't have Corona. Contact page is everything, all the organizations, all the different types. You have the author, you have the about, you have the publisher, you have reviewed by. This actually here, I left in there to see if Google would trigger it, and it hasn't triggered it. So I'm not sure. I thought that would trigger something just because there's really no review system on the contact page. Copyright holder, creator, primary image of page, stuff like that. Now we get into local schema. Local schema, again, is only used on local pages, only city-specific pages. So with the same thing we do, we go out and, let me see here. Let's see, hold on, just bear with me a second here. I'm reading. Okay. Yeah, so anyways, the local business schema is only on the local pages. And we also kind of combine those. And what I'll show you what Google did to the new plumber that we just did this to. It was pretty interesting. So just bear with me on that. We'll come back to local schema real quick. Now we have our specific products and services we build stacks for. So we have stacks built strictly for this web page, affordable web design services. So in the same as category for just this page, I'll list the stacks for just this page. Same thing with the SEO. We built stacks for the SEO side. We built, and then we get into Texas. So we then whole new state. So anyways, when you look at doing this stuff, this is what it kind of looks like. So this is one of my Inside City pages. So the Chandler web design page. So the professional service is what I have site-wide. So this is everything. This is everything that we had on there site-wide. Has all the citations that are all branded for Salterra. Has nothing, has all the different authors, has all the different services we talked about, items offered. Here's when you get into the descriptions. You can see how much content this adds to your web page and website. So one of the things that's interesting, though, is when we come in here and we say, okay, we're also a local business. And so the local business is just strictly so I can plug in the aggregate rating. And again, this is something that's hit or miss. We're still trying to work on and test aggregate rating, as I think almost everybody is, because one day they'll be there, one day they won't. So we're trying to figure all that out. But then I get into the actual specific service of this page. So the specific service is web design. So we get into, the different stuff about that web design schema. I've got, here's the cities that that'll also silo back and forth between the Arizona properties. So it gives you kind of an idea on this one page how much text we added. I think it's pretty much, it's pretty much all here. I mean, it's just massive. There's so much new schema on this page that Google gets to crawl that it really kind of says, wow, that's pretty cool. You're letting me do this, Google. Let's see what else we can get away with. So here's the plumber. This is what Google did to the plumber. So we have home and construction business site-wide, because that's what he is. He's a home and construction business. Then he's also a local business, and he's also a plumber. So Google took all three of the hierarchies that we had separate schema for, and it threw it into one. So the biggest thing that we can do now is we look in this thing and say, okay, well, what they skip? Did they skip anything? Did they delete anything? Are they not showing something? And they are showing absolutely everything under the same schema, same schema category. They just decided to throw it all into whatever they wanted to do. So, and this is a local page on this site. So if you go just to the main page, all you're going to see is the home business. Excuse me, sorry. Take a drink here. The home and construction business. So we thought this was super interesting. And then for some reason, it just decided to throw out the website and keep that separate. So we didn't even have a separate website schema. So we just did these three for this one page. You have the site-wide, then you have the local business and the service. Google decided to throw them all into one, which really kind of surprised us. We hadn't seen that before until 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago when this happened. So it was interesting to see, okay, well, what is it going to do? Because it didn't do it here. It didn't do anything, like that. So we're trying to figure out now on this side, it's like, okay, is it only specific to plumbers? But it also did it on the HVAC side, because this plumber actually does air conditioner. So it also did the same exact thing that HVAC. It's just instead of plumber, it's HVAC or whatever I can't remember the schema code for that. But it did throw it all into one, but it wouldn't do it for like this type of service. So we're still playing with it to see what we can get away with, what we can do. Some of the other schemas that I wanted to show you that I typically don't use on Salterra, mainly because I'm not a doctor. So doctor schema is super important. Now there's physician schema and then there's person schema. You can add a lot more text under the person schema than you can the physician schema. So we chose to use the person schema, and it gives us a chance to put in the basically the alumni of. This is, you don't get to put this in when you have physician schema. There's a couple different medical ones. So when you're playing with schema and you're testing these things back and forth to see if they trigger any errors, find the one that gives you the most opportunity to add the most text. So we use the person schema for doctors, and it gives them a chance to list their college and universities. Of course, we have, the actual university link. We have a Wikipedia link for the university. Next Doctor, same thing. We use their specific images. And here we have alumni of. She actually had 2 colleges she went to. So it just gives you more opportunity to add schema. More opportunity to add more stuff to the website. Multi-location schema. Multi-location schema is actually pretty easy. You just basically put in the local schema type twice. So here's one location up here, and there's one location up there. So I just chose to build completely separate schema for our multiple locations. So Texas has its own schema system. Colorado has its own schema system. Let me see here. Video schema. Video schema is huge. So the cool thing about video schema is you can go out and do all kinds of stuff. You can tell it the duration, you can tell it the upload date, the thumbnail URL. You can get into the interaction count, how many times it's been viewed, gives you a chance for the K code, the date published. You can write a huge freaking about this thing here. We've tested this thing up to 1,000 words, no trigger, just more content. Gets into the access mode, the accessibility feature, gives you a chance for a place, location created at, so you can put another place in there. Who's the publisher? This is cool. It gives you a geo radius, which is pretty neat. Organization, so it gives you a publisher and organization schema that you get to use. So video schema is pretty awesome. I don't have many videos on Salterra. I think I only have 2. But yeah, so this is something that we are going to be at least installing for those 2 videos. Image schema, another one, super powerful. So image schema, hold on, let me get rid of this. There we go. So image schema, let me get more stuff out of the way. All right, so image schema basically is the same thing. So you kind of tell Google what the name of the picture is, the alternative headline, the content URL, the about of the picture, description, another more ways to add more content. Keywords gives you an opportunity to just add in all the keywords. What keywords do you want to list here? This keyword schema we found only really works on images. It doesn't work on video. It doesn't work on anything else. It might now. You got to understand too, schema changes constantly. So what works this week might not work next month, or might trigger an error or a warning. So always double check. So just gives you an idea. Works for organization schema. producer, who produced the image, content or copyright holder gives you an idea to a way to copyright your image, which is super important. And the publisher, works for, again. Actually, I think, yeah, you only want works for in there once. Anyway, so image schema is very, very awesome, but it's really time consuming. So if you're a photographer, if you're clients or something that you really want to make sure your images are being indexed with the right information, then you need to use image schema. Breadcrumbs. This is something that Clint talked about. Breadcrumb schema is something that we are testing constantly. Matter of fact, I'm not going to put this one in the library just because it's triggering some errors. So I've got to research what errors it's triggering. But it gives you an idea. I mean, it's just, again, it's just a ton of stuff. So same thing, alternative name, gives you the same alternative, bunch of different thing types. So the thing types are interesting just because of the fact that you can go in and say, okay, this is substance dependence. This is all the stuff that the alternative names, druggies, alcohols, pinhead, crackhead, all the different stuff people are called. Kind of cracks me up. And then it gives you kind of the same as for that stuff. You get into the Wikidata, Yaga Knowledge, DPpedia. There's all kinds of different authority spaces for drug and rehab type stuff besides Wikipedia. But it just gives you an opportunity to do that. So another thing is substance abuse. So you can, this is the neat thing about breadcrumbs, but again, this threw up a bunch of errors. So I've got to figure out why now Google doesn't like some of that stuff. Here's that plumber scheme I was talking about. The one that did this plumber HVAC. So, it just stacked it itself. We put it in it separately and Google just decided to stack it up all together. So, okay. Haven't figured out why yet. Maybe it's just for plumbers. Because it didn't work on roofers, or the roofer one we did a couple weeks ago. So that's basically all I have for that. Now, one of the big things, the tools I use to build schema. Again, this is a super, super slow process. I use Notepad++, GatherUp, SEO Quake, keywords everywhere, schema.org is going to become your best friend. Google Schema Checker is going to become your little sister. Knowledge of the niche. This is really important. If you take on a brand new niche, a dress business in North Scottsdale or something, you need to make sure that you're researching that niche before you start building out schema, because you can really miss some very important parts, whether it's authority, whether it's just giving more opportunity for the schema to do different things within that niche. So you really have to spend some time in that niche if you don't know it. Obviously, the people like us that kind of niche down, it's pretty easy to have good knowledgeable about the niche. Then you just have to have knowledge about the area. And then my brain, obviously, my brain does everything. Site structure and SEO. This is the way Salterra site is structured. And you saw in the schema, it's structured the exact same way in the schema. So I have all my web design area in the schema. I have, and on the website, I have my SEO stuff, my marketing development, and then my Arizona schema. So, or Arizona silo. So again, the same type of silo system I built for the front side of the website for the public to see. We also built in the schema side of the website for Google and the search engines to see. So one of the reasons we did this is because we wanted to make sure there was no cross with what we were doing. So typically somebody that's coming to us that needs a web development project or a software development project, they want to talk about a portal for a online pharmacy, which we do a lot of, then they have no interest in going to this other stuff. It's just a waste of time for them. So why should our websites have all the garbage in front of them to stop them from going to exactly where they need to go quickly? Same with the search engines. So same type of thing. Now, what happens when you do this stuff right? Let me see. Where's my? Oh, I did it here. Okay. So this is what happened when we loaded up the schema on Salterra site. Like I said, we loaded up March 1st. So you want to kind of pay attention to this 30-day column. So, and we did nothing to this site, actually since way before Halloween last year. So when we added the schema in, all of a sudden we were struggling with keyword cannibalization of our homepage always being the ranking factor compared to our inside pages. So when we installed the schema, it seemed to me that it helped Google better understand that this keyword I really only want on this page. I don't want it on the home page. I don't want another page ranking for it. So when we installed this schema, we saw huge jumps, and still seeing them every single day. This is this morning. So we're still going green. But the biggest thing is that, when we were struggling, we're no longer struggling down here with salterrasite.com homepage, trying to fight for the rankings for all this other stuff. So, it's just a pretty cool thing to go through and see that finally schema, advanced schema, can have an adverse and true effect on how Google is showing your results. And I do truly believe is because I'm of the belief that if your schema and this much schema is in the head of your page, you are going to get huge points because Google's going to crawl that every single time. So, when you're talking about crawl budget, when you're talking about, full crawl scans, all the different variables that we have to try to pay attention to, if you put all this information in the head of that page, it's going to get crawled. So, and again, it goes out and it does some pretty cool stuff when you start applying it to the schema code. And again, this is something that we continually test. It's something we continually do. It's pretty fun just because of, I'm like a mad scientist. I like to go in and see what I can get away with. Not quite as bad as Holly. I don't want my picture up in the Google break room like she has, but but the whole idea though is that we want to test the limits of what we can do and test the limits of what Google will give us credit for. So let's stop sharing here real quick. Let's see here. Wimp, Holly. Okay, let's answer some questions. All right. What are you doing with schema to get into more zip codes, increased areas that others are not doing? Again, when we go into a city that and granted, I have maps all over the place. So when we go into a city that, let's say, for instance, I have my Dallas map and I want to go into Tyler, 65 something, 80 miles away. So I can go ahead and I can build a Tyler page. And inside that page, I'm going to have information about the city. I'm going to have information, obviously, about my services I do in that city. I'm going to have information about, maybe even driving directions. I'm a big believer in driving directions, even though it might be 70 miles away from my home location. It's still going to give me some credit. So we will also send citations to that page and not that map. We can build a Google stack around that page if we're really trying to get into Tyler heavily. And all this is just factors that I'm going to put in the schema because it's also stuff that we're going to link to, which you'll learn more about how we link stuff on the linking day. But that's typically how we go into new areas is we just want to make sure we're building out the schema. We're building out the stuff about the city. We're building out the stuff about the service. We're trying to give Google as much information that we are in that location as possible. So, and I just used the Dallas K code with the driving directions back to Dallas. So it kind of gives us, it's not like we're saying we have a location in Tyler, but we service Tyler, so to speak. Do you use organization schema? I have professional service as the schema on Salterra site-wide. I didn't really go into, matter of fact, let me back up a little bit. Choosing the right type, you need to look at it in a broad sense. So obviously the first thing when you have a plumber is everybody goes, oh, I have a plumber, I'm going to use the plumber schema. Yeah, you can do that. And there's probably not that much wrong with that. But we chose to go after a couple, a level above that. So we chose to go after site-wide of, the home and construction business. That's what we did site-wide. And then on the plumber page and on the plumber location pages, we will institute the plumber schema. So, so we chose professional service on Salterra. I choose professional service on actually a lot of sites just because it gives us the most opportunity to go in there and not be so, if you're a plumber and you have plumber on your site-wide site and all of a sudden you have a gutter page, that's where you kind of get screwed up. So keep your plumbers with your plumbers, your gutters, do a professional service or a home and construction business with a gutter service, stuff like that. It just gives you more flexibility as you build out your website. Can you stuff the cities by doing cities multiple times with different keywords and URLs? So far, yes. I actually think this is the one area that we've got to really watch closely. So as you saw on Salterra, I'm pretty rigid with like web design, web design chandler. So I didn't go into the other variables of that keyword, web development, all the different stuff that people search for. And so far, the next test, I've got another Salterra site that I'm testing, which I am going to test different locations, different keywords, different location information with different keywords to see how that goes. I'm not going to do it on my main site just because 2 years ago, I screwed up pretty bad on my main site. So, would you use personal for lawyers as well? Yes, I would. Matter of fact, we just did a big lawyer one. There's actually a lawyer schema in the library. But yes, for sure. Anybody that has professional education or top level education, anybody that has accreditations, anybody that gets interviewed a lot, anybody that has books, movies, anything like that is stuff that you want to make sure you put in schema. How are you measuring the impacts and implementation of all this schema? Basically, we build up kind of like Ted and Kyle and Clint do. We have a bunch of test sites. So we'll build up a site and we'll go up there and I'll just, like I said, I'm building it. Hopefully this weekend, I'm going to build a site that's just going to be schema only. I just want to see what will happen. I'm not even going to put Lorem Ipsum on the website, out on the web page. I'm just going to do schema. I just want to see if Google even will index it. I want to see if Google will even register it to see how it goes. But the biggest thing that we do is just testing out on that phase. What can we get away with? What does the schema checker let us get away with? And then once we get the schema checker approval, we put it on the page, index it, or just tell Search Console that it's there. And then a lot of times, this is something that we're finding out too. We're also getting messages for warnings, not errors, for warnings on schema that don't show up in Google Schema Checker. So that's something else that we're watching for. Not the bad ones, not the errors, just the warnings. Because if you get an error, you will get an email and they won't even show up. But if you have a warning, they still show up, but they warn you that something's wrong with your schema. Tools, my brain, how much per month? Oh, you can't afford me, Patrick. Mark, have you ever seen any penalties for aggregate review schema? It's the only kind of penalty that we see is reviews and aggregate systems. The biggest problem we're seeing is that most tools that did aggregate ratings didn't make the switch when Google did. We used to be able to get aggregate ratings on every insight page. It didn't matter. I mean, we all knew it wouldn't show up on the home page, but we were able to get aggregate rating on our privacy page. I mean, just really stupid pages. So when Google made the switch, which we kind of still haven't all figured out what that switch was because Google's not telling us. Excuse me. We just want to make sure that, the biggest penalties, if you have a review schema, the review has to be on that page word for word. If you have aggregate ratings, the biggest the biggest ratings we're using now are the ones from Google My Business. Before, you weren't supposed to do that, but now we've been doing that. And again, it's still hit and miss to get the stars show up. So I actually got an email this morning from one of my clients that the stars showed up yesterday, but they're gone again this morning. So who knows, but we're still working on that. How to most easily implement advanced schema on mass page sites. Again, your site-wide schema is pretty easy. I use the header footer control manager, like Ted had talked about. Let me see here. I thought I did it. Okay, here it is. Let me share my screen one more time. Okay, so here's the header footer control manager. It basically just gives us an opportunity to tell WordPress, where we want our header, where we want our snippets at, or where we want our schema at. So basically, you have different choices. When you bring this up, kind of gives you snippet name, and then you have your site-wide, specific posts, specific pages, specific categories, specific post types, tags, blah, blah, blah. So the site-wide one, obviously we'd put the snippet code in the site-wide one, always in the header, and then we just let it go. Show on all devices. You can, only desktop, only mobile. I don't have any schema that's different between desktop and mobile, but it's something you can definitely do. You can make it active or non-active. Like the site-wide one, like I said, it'll go to all the pages. And then we'll prioritize. Okay, what do we want to do next? Like, what's our number one service? Well, our number one service in Salterra is web design. So we start with the web design schema, and then we place that web design schema on the specific pages for web design and the specific categories for web design. So when there's a blog post about web design and the web design category is selected, that web design schema is going to show up on that blog. Hope that answers your question. Stop sharing again. All right. Are you seeing the schema impact GMB proximity, not just the spot, but the radius area out? This is something that we're testing right now, Carolyn. The answer is yes. We are seeing map improvements. We're seeing map improvements for cities outside of our location that have the driving directions. But as far as tracking what's going on, we're still trying to figure out what map ranking system we want to use. So we have local Viking, which I'm not very happy with. And so that's the biggest problem that we're having now is, what can we use out there besides Ghost and all these other stuff to change IP addresses, just to make sure to see if any of the schema stuff is going to have any effect. I'm actually going to do a image schema of a map and see if I can move that map, because I'm going to do it for a city that's like 40 miles away. And I'm going to see if I can move that map with just the image schema and the stuff we can put in the image schema. So as our tests go through, I'll let you guys all know in the Facebook group how our tests went. This is something that, like I said, I'm doing schema daily now. So I actually think it's the number one thing you have to do for your websites is schema. Let me see. Which rank tracking tool was that receipt from? SERP book. I love SERP book. They're all, believe me, when it comes to local, they're all very inadequate. But you just look for trends. You just look for pops. You look for drops. You look for all the different things to give you an idea of what your system's doing. SERP book. Oh, I think I might have deleted one that I missed. So if I did, please repost. What are you recommending as best method for making sure schema is loaded into header of WordPress sites on a page level? Yep, that's what I do. So header footer control manager, that's how we do it. And I love this tool because I can, if I want just the Arizona pages, it'll let me pick just the Arizona pages. If I want just the category pages for, affordable web design, then it's just the, category pages for affordable web design. What's my issues with local Viking? My biggest issues right now is the fact that everything's under the same umbrella. It scares me to death to have something like this. So we haven't had any adverse effects from it. I'm just looking for a different tool to put. We've got hundreds of maps in there. And if something ever happens with their system or API or whatever, then I don't know what's going to happen. So it's one of the things that I've got a couple friends that we're talking about different things about it. So, but if you have one or two maps and use local Viking, there's nothing wrong with it. We're just at a scale that if something does happen, it can be very detrimental. What are you recommending as a best method for making sure schema is loaded? Yep, that's the one I just did. So, I just ran a test on Salterra homepage and it only has professional service. Why don't you use website or web page professional service silo structure as Clint spoke about? Because I just chose on my site-wide, on my home. I don't want my homepage to rank for anything. You need to understand that. Everybody that comes to us, most people that come to us, when we look at their rankings, their homepage is ranking for 80% of their keywords, and not good. So one of the things that you want to do with the schema, one of the things that I wanted to do with schema on Salterra site was I wanted my homepage to have the very least schema. It tells enough about Google, who we are, what we are. We have our services. Here's what we do, blah, blah, blah. But then that's it. So I didn't want to add in web page and, breadcrumbs and all the other stuff to my homepage because I really want my homepage to not be the focus of our website. So hope that makes sense. I add schema to all of my device DriveStack sites. Would you mirror the money site schema to add authority from Google? You can. The only thing we do with our stacks is we pretty much just link to them. I mean, we don't optimize them. I don't put extra schema in there. The only outside thing besides our website we do with schema is on the press release side. We do press releases with Quantum, and we do schema with Quantum. And we also do schema with AB Newswire, but AB Newswire is not that good of doing schema. And then, of course, Magis system does schema. So that's the biggest thing that we try to watch out for as far as our stacks. But I do think it'll work into. Okay, since most of us using SEO Press, I also use SEO Press Pro, but I turn their schema off. One of the reasons I turn their schema off is I don't want anything conflicting with my schema that I'm putting in there, my advanced schema. When you have Yoast uses a system called Henty, and you want to turn Henty off if you're going to start loading up schema, especially the size schema that we have. I don't want Google to mistake anything that we didn't put in there. So Google still will only show a few things in schema. That's all they can. So if let's say Google limits you to 3 schemas per page that Google's going to show, why do you want to have one of those schemas be a possibility of a schema that you didn't install or that you don't have control of? So yeah, we turn all the SEO Press schema off, breadcrumbs off. I do some, reach out to me. I can show you what settings I do for SEO Press. But yeah, as far as schema, it's all text because it gives us 100% control of what we can do with it. Let me see. I add schema to all of my Drive stuff. I did that one. How do you shift rankings from homepage to an inner page? That's the same way. So basically stop focusing on the homepage. It's very difficult to do, especially if you're picked up an old website that's, a few years old and every link they have in the world is going to the homepage. So when you start building out your city pages, your location pages, or your service pages, you have to start sending links and you have to optimize those service pages better than your homepage. So if your homepage ranks for Dallas Plumber and you want to move to Plano and have a Plano page, then you need to have a Dallas page because it's going to be difficult for Google to say, okay, your homepage is Dallas, your inside page is Plano. Well, why don't you have a Dallas page? Why isn't ABC Bob's Plumbing, a broad sense at the homepage level? So I'm a big believer, and I've been doing this for, building websites for 20 years. And I've always just wanted the homepage just to be a pass through. You arrived, let's get off, let's transact inside. So that's just been with me. Oh, what's my experience with Divi? Divi up to the point of 3.0, Divi was a very, very well respected and used theme. When they switched to 3.0, which changed their Divi builder, now they had crawl issues. We were seeing crawls only 30% of the page with Divi. So one of the very first things out of the gate, and I even sent this to Elegant Themes. Who was it? Elegant Themes. I even sent this to Elegant Themes and showed them that your new Divi builder does not give a full crawl to the page. This is back when we had fetch and render in Google Search Console. We were able to test stuff like this easily. Google's now taken that away from us. But there's other ways to test it too. But the biggest thing with Divi that we found is, number one, it didn't let you do a full crawl. Why? I'm not really sure. It's the way the builder was built and the way the builder was used. One of the biggest things is you can't turn the builder off and still have a website. So that right there to me just raised a red flag with code of why. Why can't I have a web page that's functional and looks good if I turn the builder off? So anyways, that's the biggest problem we have with with Divi. And nowadays it's just, I don't like it. We don't use many builders in our space anyways. But that's my biggest problem with Divi is they've always had a crawl issue. And if you can get a full crawl with Divi and you're ranking fine with Divi, hey, great, awesome. But the few Divi sites that we take on, we typically will rebuild them into a different theme. And we've seen immediate increases in rankings just by rebuilding it off of Divi. So let's see. Currently, it's not allowing me to do different schema. Yeah, see, that's one of the problems with Divi. So Currently, it's not allowing me to do different schema per subpage. Divi support told me to use a plugin. So again, I would try the header footer code manager to see if you can get it to show up in there. Just load it up, apply it to a page, stick that page in the schema checker, and see if it shows up. If it doesn't, then get off of Divi. I've de-optimized the homepage, removed schema, old website a few years ago, and have cored the F out of it. It's indexed, links out, and G-stacks, but it won't rank because of keyword cannibalization. Contact me. I'll help you with that. Have you tested putting schema into Blogger and G sites? I have not. That might be a pretty cool one. Can you use dynamic text to schema for something like articles, something to pull the title, description, and author info? You probably could, especially if it's the same all the time as far as author info. Title and description, there's some tools out there that you can put in as far as, there's some schema builder tools, but you want to make sure that it exports out to HTML, so it gives you a little bit more control to add or subtract from it. But as far as something that's automatic, I'm not sure there is something. Again, I'm so used to this now manually that I've just become really freaking good at copy and paste. And find and replace. So once you have the structure and you've done the research, it's pretty easy to work in these text files and figure it out. You mentioned to not use actual content that appears on the page itself. Example description, don't use actual page copy. This is different than Google. Why? Just because it gives you more opportunity to give Google more text. So if you put the same description on your description tag as you do in your schema, you haven't really done anything different to the schema. So and remember, they're all in the head. So you want to make sure that you're giving Google more stuff to read and give you credit for. Have you had any issues with Aveda and using your schema? No, actually Aveda is our theme. I think we've built close to 600 sites with it, and we've never had a problem with using Aveda. What are G-stacks and where do you add those links in schema? Sorry. Okay, so Google Stacks is something that we get. Google gives those to us for free. There's services out there that can build you for them. There's also Patrick Tuttle's going to be coming on your bonus day. Everybody gets to come do the 8th day free. We didn't charge for it. And Patrick Tuttle has a system that builds stacks. So kind of give you an idea of, the different things we can do. But stacks is always our tier 1 level linking pattern. So, and we've been doing it that way for 3 years. So, let me see here. Okay, cool. And if you want to know more about Google Stacks, reach out to me. I can even show you examples, stuff like that. But you put them in the schema right there in the front, where it's in the same as category. So when you have same as and people put their Facebook and Twitter and all these tools, put the Facebook, Twitter, your social properties in there, your same as also can include stacks. It can include the branded ring of your IFTT, which is typically Web 2s. And just different stuff like that you can keep inside your schema. And we just started doing that. It's actually one of the neatest things because we had such big jumps with it. So because there are properties, they're branded to us. There are properties, so we should be able to put them in there same as like you would a Facebook page. Do you use Quantum to build links to your website directly or to your tier 1s? Directly. Let's see here. Do you have any good examples of site using organization schema, looking for something I can copy and paste? Yeah, Nathan, it's in the library. I'll help you with that. If Debbie is dead, what's the best web builder? I'm an Aveda fan, but people like Oxygen. We're actually testing Oxygen right now. There's some other good ones. I like Thrive. All of our affiliate sites are on Thrive. There's some good ones out there. So, all right. Thank you, Jacob. Let me see. Anything else? Hate Aveda. Okay, Sean, I'm coming after you. Let me see. Okay. Any more questions, guys? Let's see here. Is it making any sense building separate Google Stacks batch for each city and location business? I'll tell you, the biggest thing that we build stacks for the brand, which is the homepage, and we build stacks for every main keyword page. So our web design page has stacks. We don't have stacks for our web design Phoenix page. I am testing some local citation stuff for those type of city pages. But right now I'm not ready to release the results yet, just because they're not in yet. But the idea is that you want to have as much information as you can for each page on the website that you're trying to rank for. I'm not talking about your about page and stuff like that. So, all right. Well, thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Paul. See anything else? Oh, I got something over here. Okay, hold on here real quick. Hold on. Can you send examples of Google Stacks? Yeah, I'll put some examples up there. Do I use Web 20 Ranker as a provider? Hell no. Sorry, I'm not going to get any more into that. Let me see. What is Patrick Stack Tool? He'll show you all that on his day. Let me see. Anything else? Okay. Good. Oh, maybe one more. Where do you release your results? You mentioned in the Facebook group. Yeah, everybody's going to get a link to the Google Drive for the day. In the Google Drive will be today's videos. It'll be today's presentations, and I'll put my schema library up there, and some other stuff. So we're going to be doing all kinds of different things. There's also, so each day is going to have a different link for the Google Drive. So people that are in for that day are good. So. All right. Let's see, that's it. Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, I'm going to get off. Please reach out to me. Obviously, I'll be here till we're over. But I love schema. I love talking about it. I love testing it. I have people that will send me their schema, and maybe they found some new schema that they want to have me look at. I love doing that. So I also have a program that I can scrape any website schema from their website. So if you're interested to see what kind of schema this website has that's ranking #1, I have a tool to scrape that. So if you want me to do that for you, I'm happy to. So, all right. Everything else good?
I love your avatar, by the way.
Yeah, it's Elizabeth's artwork.
Very nice.
All right. I hope I didn't melt too many brains. It is a lot of work. It is not super scalable, but it is super powerful. So if you guys have anything else, just please reach out for me, and have a wonderful time, wonderful day.
Thank you, Terry. Nice job. Yeah, I am super proud of having him. The stuff he does with schema amazes me. Great job there. Next up, we're going to probably get going because it's already 1:15. So Lane, I think you're slated to come in here next. There you are, and we'll just take it away. Off we go. Great job.
No pee break, I guess, huh?
No pee break this time.
All right. And just to make sure I don't thoroughly give everyone a headache, I won't talk about schema in the next 40 minutes. We had a great deep dive into schema this morning already. Thanks, Clint and Terry. That was some awesome stuff. All right. So what I'm going to do is switch it up and go into some GMB stuff. I've got SEO signal hacks for GMB MacPack rankings. I'm just going to go through. I'll use my slide deck here as a kind of a guide. I'll get through my slides, and then we can do a Q&A as well. Thanks again for everyone and your time and attention today. Hope you're all enjoying this digital conference. Appreciate JC, Terry, Elizabeth, Bradley, the whole crew that did the organization of this event. It's been awesome so far. Let's keep it rolling. All right. So a little bit about me. Won't go into, most of you guys on this conference already have heard of me or know me, but for those of you who are new, I was a former Army medic. I spent 10 years in the banking industry after the last crash.